Hello everyone and welcome back to IMO Reviews, and today we are discussing Monsters, the Lyle and Erik Menendez story. This is the second season of Monster, of which the previous one was where they followed Jeffrey Dahmer, which you may remember from last year or 2 years ago, I believe. This time reenacting and exploring the famous Menendez murder case. Now, the first series did get quite a lot of stick and abuse for glorifying the victim's murders, I suppose is the best way to put it. And I can sort of see that complaint, but I don't think it's entirely valid. It's not meant to be enjoyable, but you do have to sometimes go to those deepest, darkest corners to really get a grip, feeling, and understanding, if you even can, of what is going through some of these people's minds when they're doing these things. Or even to give the audience the freedom to form their own opinion on said disgusting thing that's happening. And in this second season, I think you can tell that those complaints have hit home, because I thought that this was a little bit more controlled and reserved in that regard. And I thought they were quite clever in this second season to, rather than glorify the deaths, more so explore the constant lies and barrages of nonsense that came out of these two brothers. Because the more you know about this case and the more you know about the two Menendez brothers, you can't trust a word they say on anything. Even if they told you the sky was blue, question it deeply. And the director and the writers were very clever to make that the storytelling process. They explore the ifs, buts and maybes. They explore false narratives, which I thought was smart. I thought it was engaging. It kept me on my toes. It kept me guessing, because I must admit I didn't know much about this case going into it. So they did manage to pull the rug out from under my feet. They did manage to play with my emotions. There were times where I strangely felt empathetic towards two psychopathic murderers, only for 3 episodes later for me to feel completely different about them once again. I really did enjoy that roller coaster of emotions that this show put me through. I also think the show deserves a lot of praise, because from my research it does seem to be fairly accurate to what really happened, at least with the concrete facts we can definitely pin down, because that is kind of the problem with this story. No one's ever going to know for sure. I think people are probably 90% certain they know what happened, but we will never know for sure. Now, I personally am a little bit mixed on the cast, because yes, performances were fantastic all round. Everyone was really killing it. But when you then do the research and start looking at real interview tapes of the brothers, you actually start to see the discrepancies. You start to see where it's not that accurate of a performance at all. It's a good performance and the actor is killing it, but he isn't properly really bringing to life and doing justice to the Menendez brother that he's playing. I found that to be the case with both of them. In fact, the actor who is playing Lyle Menendez felt like a very cheap cosplay of Patrick Bateman at times. Felt a little bit goofy, gimmicky and cartoonish, and when you see them in real life, they don't necessarily come off that way, which does unfortunately bring us to the negatives. I have a bit of a problem with a trend in media of late where we seem to be hell-bent on just perfectly recreating things. I remember a few months ago we watched Scoop, which was reenacting the Prince Andrew interview, and it was just the most pointless thing ever. If I wanted to watch the Prince Andrew interview, I should have just gone and watched the Prince Andrew interview. But what I ended up paying for was actors perfectly reenacting something that really did happen that I could watch the real version of, but instead I'm going to pay for a fake version of the real thing. And it's been going on for a long time. When you think about Bohemian Rhapsody, don't watch the Live Aid performance, watch Rami Malek do it instead, because that's going to be better than Freddie Mercury, of course. It's boring, it's tiresome, and it really doesn't achieve anything, and gladly that trend does already seem to be losing steam, but unfortunately it did spill into this series here. I will cut them some slack, because sometimes these little pop culture nods and references do genuinely play into the story, and I have done research and they're not lying, that really did happen, so I can sort of forgive them for including it. But I can't help but acknowledge the fact that it does feel like the show stops to go, hey, do you remember when this happened? I should have mentioned in my positives as well, sorry, just to quickly go back. There is one episode in the middle, I want to say it might be episode 5 or 6, where it is one take for 30 minutes. It's outstanding. That episode alone, 10 out of 10. Great stuff. Best episode of the series by a country mile. Another issue I had with this series, unfortunately, is that by the last 2 or 3 episodes, I felt the narrative just started to get unnecessarily messy. It focuses in a lot more on Nathan Lane's character, and I love Nathan Lane. I think he makes everything better, and I feel weird saying this because I love Nathan Lane. He did not need to be in this. He really, really, really didn't. He ended up just serving as exposition for the audience, and we didn't need that exposition. We were getting it quite comfortably through what else was being shown. And because of the ifs, buts and maybes in this story, which I do praise them for doing so, towards the end it just got a bit muddled. They started exploring too many ifs, buts and maybes and actually visually replaying what might have happened or what could have happened, and some of them are just complete flights of fancy and nonsense and grandeur, and they feel unnecessary. The show is doing such a good job of painting the picture for you and letting you figure it out for yourself, but it didn't half spoil itself when it just seemed to spell it out for you and shove it into your gob on a spoon going choo choo. But overall, very enjoyable, very well made, very well performed, gripping, interesting, especially if you don't know the case that well, which I didn't, with a refreshing approach to it as well. I'm going to give Monsters, the Lyle and Erik Menendez story, a 7 out of 10. Thank you for watching this review. Please be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and please do hit the comment section as well. Have you seen Monsters, the Lyle and Erik Menendez story? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comment section down below. And of course, if you haven't had enough of this crazy ginger, we can always click on these suggested videos right here and get yourself lost in an IMO wormhole. But if not, take care and I look forward to seeing you on the next review.